Ah, stories, they are like the waters of an ancient river, aren't they? They flow and flow, from mouth to mouth, from heart to heart, carrying with them the secrets and fears of a time long past, but which still lives right here in the shadows of our memory. And this is one of those stories, one that wrapped itself around my soul like a vine on the oldest tree in the forest. I was just a boy with scraped knees and a head full of dreams and fears. We lived far, very far from the town center, where asphalt was a legend and electricity, well, it was a luxury few knew. Our house was a solitary down in the midst of green, embraced by the forest and kissed by the river. The river, the river, it was our world, our road, our sustenance, and sometimes our mystery. Near home, there was a bridge, an old wooden bridge, with planks that creaked with every step, as if groaning under the weight of years, and the stories they had witnessed. It was a simple bridge, but for me, it was the frontier between the known world and the unknown, between the safety of our yard and the vastness of the forest that stretched beyond. And beneath it, the river flowed deep dark and full of life. Silverfish leaped, lazy alligators basked in the sun, and the elders said creatures from other worlds also lurked. It was there near that bridge, on a hot, lazy summer day, that I saw him for the first time a man. But he was no ordinary man, no. He stood on the edge of the embankment, where the earth sloped steeply down to the water. The sun beat down hard, and dust danced in the air. But his image was etched in my mind like a scar. He had only one leg, a single leg, and leaned on crutches, made of wood, worn by use. The embankment was high, steep, and he seemed so fragile there, so out of place. I hid behind a bush, my heart pounding in my chest, like a festive drum. Curiosity was greater than fear. He didn't see me, or perhaps he didn't care to see me. His eyes fixed on the water seemed to search for something, or perhaps just get lost in the immensity of the river. I had never seen a one-legged man before in our small community. Everyone knew each other, and everyone was whole. That man was a stranger, a walking mystery. He stood there for a long time motionless, like a statue of pain and solitude. And then, with a sigh that seemed to carry the weight of 1,000 years, he turned and began to climb the embankment, slowly, with difficulty. The crutches sank into the soft earth, and every movement seemed like a battle. I watched in silence until he disappeared among the trees, leaving behind only the echo of his effort and the question that hammered in my head. How does a man lose a leg like that in the middle of nowhere? That night, by the flickering light of the oil lamp, I couldn't sleep. The image of the man and the question haunted me. I heard the crickets outside, the croaking of frogs, and the distant murmur of the river. And suddenly, a voice, my grandmother's voice, echoed in my memory. She always told stories to haunt, to enchant, and to warn. And one of them, one in particular, spoke of a being, a mischievous and dangerous being. "Be careful, my child," she would say, with narrowed eyes and an enigmatic smile. "The forest has its secrets, and the river its depths, and not everything that hides there is made of flesh and bone. There's the Saci, the rascal Saci, with his red cap, his pipe, and his single leg. He loves to play tricks, steal things, to lead cattle astray, and sometimes, when anger takes him or malice dominates him, he can do terrible things." I huddled under the blanket. The Saci, the legend of the Saci, always fascinated and terrified me. He was a spirit of the forest, a guardian, and a prankster. But the idea that he could take someone's leg, that was new and frightening.
Leave me alone.
Could it be possible? That man, the man on the bridge, had he encountered the Saci?
The Saci?
In the days that
You
followed,
saw him too, didn't you?
I couldn't get the man out of my head. I returned to the bridge every day, hoping to see him again, to perhaps understand. But he never reappeared. The bridge, the river, the embankment, everything seemed the same. But for me, there was a shadow, a mystery, that hung in the air. My imagination, as a child, began to fill in the gaps. I saw the Saci in every eddy of the river, in every falling leaf, in every shadow that danced in the forest. The adults, they laughed at my questions. "Nonsense, boy," my father would say. "The man must have had an accident, a snake, a fall. Life in the countryside is hard." But I knew, I felt that there was something more, something they didn't want to see, or perhaps couldn't see. My grandmother, she just looked at me with those wise eyes and said, "Not everything that is explained is the truth, and not everything that is seen is reality." The story of the man on the bridge and the legend of the Saci began to mix in my mind like the colors of a sunset. What was real? What was fantasy? I didn't know, but the seed of doubt and fear was planted, and it would grow with time until it became a leafy tree of mystery and of wonder. The years dragged on like the slow waters of the river in a dry season. I grew up, but the story of the man on the bridge and the shadow of the Saci never left me. They became a part of me, a whispered secret that I kept deep in my soul. I became a young man with the same scraped knees, but with a more curious mind and a braver heart. Or at least, I thought I was. Our small community remained the same, isolated and full of stories. Legends were our entertainment, our newspaper, our school, and the legend of the Saci was the most vivid of all. Mothers warned their children, fathers told tales by the fire, and the elders, they had a different sparkle in their eyes when they spoke of the rascal, a sparkle that mixed respect and a certain dread. I started to pay more attention, to listen more carefully. The stories of the Saci were many and varied. He stole tobacco from pipes, braided horses' manes hid objects, and, oh, yes, he loved a whirlwind. They said he traveled inside them, spinning through the air invisible, but always present. And his whistle, a sharp, piercing whistle, was the sign of his presence, the warning, or the provocation. But the story of the leg, that was the one that intrigued me most. No one spoke openly about it. It was a taboo, a secret. But I heard the whispers, the half-words, the exchanged glances, when the subject of the Saci came up. And always the image of the man on the bridge returned to my mind. Could he be the living proof? The proof that the Saci was not just a fairy tale, but a force real and dangerous? One day, I decided I could no longer live with the doubt. I needed to know. I needed to find answers. I started talking to the elders, to those who had lived longer and seen more things. I asked about the Saci, about the legends, and cautiously about strange accidents, about people who had disappeared or suffered inexplicable losses. Old Dona Rosa, with her hair white as cotton and her eyes that seemed to have watched time pass, was the first to give me a clue. She was sitting on the porch, spinning cotton, and the afternoon sun painted her wrinkled face with golden hues.
What happened to
him? My child, she said with a hoarse, soft voice. The Saci, he's not to be trifled with, no. He likes people who meddle where they shouldn't, who disrespect the forest, who hunt unnecessarily, who disturb the peace of the spirits. And when he gets angry, oh, my child, he can be cruel. But Dona Rosa, I asked, my voice a little shaky, can he really take someone's leg? She stopped spinning and looked at me intently. Her eyes seemed to penetrate my soul. The Saci, he doesn't take the leg, my child. He hides it. He takes it to his world, to his hiding place. And the person, they are left without, as if they never had it. It's a punishment, a lesson, so they never forget the power of the forest and its guardians. A chill ran down my spine. Hiding the leg. Not taking, but hiding. That was even more frightening. The idea that a part of you could be simply taken away. To a place you would never find. To a world you would never see. It was torture, a condemnation.
Did he say what happened?
And the man on the bridge, was he condemned to live like this? I continued my search. I went to Su, Joao, the oldest fisherman in the region, a quiet man, but who knew the river like the back of his hand. He was mending his net by the water's edge, and the smell of fish and dampness hung in the air. Su, Joao, I began. Do you remember a man who appeared around here many years ago, with only one leg near the bridge? He stopped what he was doing, and his eyes, which had been fixed on the net, turned to the river. I remember, yes, boy, he said with a deep, drawn-out voice. Poor Zé de Ponte. He was a good man, hard-working, but he was stubborn. Oh, he was too stubborn. What happened to him? Su, Joao. I asked, my breath held. He sighed a heavy sigh that seemed to come from the depths of his soul. Zé, he didn't believe in the Saci. He mocked the stories, said it was old people's nonsense, foolishness. And he had a bad habit of hunting small birds with traps deep in the forest near the river, where the Saci likes to live. And then, I insisted, barely able to contain my anxiety. Then one day, he went to get his traps and didn't come back. We searched for days, called people from other villages, but nothing, no trace.
Run, boy!
Until a week later, he appeared limping, dragging himself, with the crutches he made himself. His right leg was gone, as if it had never existed. Did he say what happened? I asked, my voice almost a whisper. He didn't speak, boy. He said nothing. His eyes were empty, as if they had seen hell. He just cried and pointed to the forest, to the river. And when we asked, he just shook his head and murmured, the Saci, he got me. The Saci, he got me. S.U. Joao's words echoed in my mind. Zé de Ponte, that mysterious man, had a name and a story of disrespect and punishment. The legend was becoming a reality before my very eyes. The truth, it is like the morning mist. Alexandro, sometimes dense, sometimes transparent, but always revealing something new. The story of Zé de Ponte and the confirmation that the Saci was more than a tale consumed me. I couldn't think of anything else. Curiosity turned into an obsession. I needed to understand, needed to see, needed to, perhaps, confront. I started spending more time in the forest, near the bridge, near the embankment, where it had all begun. I watched. I listened. I tried to feel the Saci's presence. I knew it was dangerous, that I was playing with fire. But something propelled me, an invisible force, the thirst for knowledge, that overcame any fear. I learned to recognize the signs. The smell of pipe smoke that appeared from nowhere and vanished as quickly as it came.
What is this place?
The sharp whistle that seemed to come from all directions at once. The whirlwind of dry leaves that formed in the middle of the path, even without wind. And the bird traps that appeared disarmed, or with the birds released as if someone or something had sabotaged them. I remembered Dona Rosa's words. He likes people who meddle where they shouldn't, who disrespect the forest. And S.U. Joao's words. Zé, he didn't believe in the Saci. He mocked the stories and hunted small birds. I began to understand the logic, the justice of the Saci. He was not just a prankster. He was a guardian, a protector of nature, and of those who respected it. And he punished severely those who disrespected it. One night, the moon was full, and the forest was alive with the sounds of the night. I was sitting near the bridge, hidden among the bushes, watching the river. The water shone silvery under the moonlight, and the shadows danced like ghosts. I felt a different energy in the air, a tension, an expectation. Suddenly, a whistle, a sharp, piercing whistle, cut through the silence of the night. It came from the forest, near the embankment, where I had first seen Zé de Ponte. My heart pounded. I knew it was him, the Saci. I stood up slowly, my legs trembling, but curiosity was stronger than fear. I started walking towards the sound with slow, cautious steps. The forest seemed to close around me. The trees transformed into menacing figures, and every branch that broke under my feet sounded like thunder. The whistle repeated, closer now, and then I saw, in the middle of a clearing, where the moonlight bathed the ground, there was a whirlwind of dry leaves that spun and spun like a macabre dance, and in its center a figure, small, slender, with a red cap and a pipe in its mouth. It was him, the Saci. He stood there on a single leg. The red cap glowed in the darkness, and the smoke from his pipe rose in spirals, forming strange figures in the air. He looked at me, with eyes that seemed to shine in the dark, not with anger, but with a curiosity almost playful. I couldn't move. I was paralyzed between fear and fascination. He said nothing, just watched me, and took a puff from his pipe. The smoke had a sweet and strange smell, like burnt leaves and wet earth. And then he made a gesture with his hand, pointing to the ground. I looked where he pointed, and there in the middle of the whirlwind, there was something that looked like a leg, a wooden leg intricately carved, as if it were a prosthesis, but strangely alive. The Saci smiled a mischievous smile that revealed small, sharp teeth. He took another puff, and the smoke transformed into words, whispered by the wind. He disrespected, he mocked, he hunted. What is taken is not lost, it is kept, so that the lesson is never forgotten. And then, as quickly as he appeared, he dissolved into the whirlwind. The leaves spun harder, the whistle became a sharp cry, and the figure of the Saci disappeared like smoke in the wind. The whirlwind dissipated, and the clearing was empty. Only the smell of smoke and the image of the wooden leg remained. I ran as I had never run before back home, with my heart in my throat and my mind in a whirlwind. I had witnessed the truth behind the legend. The Saci, he was not a monster, but a guardian, a punisher, who protected the forest and taught lessons in a way that no one would ever forget. The wooden leg was the proof that the Saci did not take, but kept as an eternal reminder of transgression, of disrespect. And Zeta Ponte, he had not lost his leg. He had his leg kept by the Saci as a trophy, a warning for all of us. Since that day, I never saw the Saci again, but I felt him in every breeze that blew through the forest, in every whirlwind that formed on the road, in every whistle that came from nowhere. And I learned to respect the forest, the river, and all the creatures that inhabit them. And above all, to respect the stories, the legends, for they hold the deepest truths, the truths that science and reason often cannot explain. And so, Alexandra, the story of the man on the bridge and the Saci became more than a childhood memory. It became a lesson, a warning, a folk tale that I carry with me, and that now I share with you, so that the flame of the legend never goes out, and so that respect for nature and its mysteries is never forgotten. For the forest, it always has its eyes, and the Saci, he always is watching.